Thank you everyone for coming today. Today we're going to be talking about Tutor Ready Reading, which is a kind of a collection of free online lesson plans, videos, and training for tutors and teachers. And it's all kinds of instructional strategies that you guys can use with your students. A little bit about things today. We are recording. We'll send out a follow-up email on Monday with links to the webinar recording, the slideshow that Dianna and Casandra have agreed to share with everybody. We'll have a presentation summary that'll have all the links that came up during the presentation and kind of the key points from the presentation. We'll also include a transcript of the chat, the Q&A, and a certificate for the folks who attended. And I apologize, I think that maybe the last time my email didn't get out until Tuesday. That was because I was having some computer issues and it took me a little bit longer to edit the video than what I wanted. So I apologize for that lateness. A little bit about the controls we're going to be using today. I'm going to ask you guys to use the chat to introduce yourselves, to share links and resources with the group, ask questions to other people in the group. We'll use the chat to share links that Dianna and Casandra kind of mentioned during the presentation. I'm going to ask you if you have content questions about Tutor Ready Reading, or for Dianna and Casandra specifically about like how they use it, things like that, to use the Q&A feature. That helps Robin and I, who are going to be handling the questions. It helps us track which questions have been answered, and we want to make sure that everyone gets their questions answered. Dianna and Casandra have agreed to stay with us past the top of the hour so we can get everybody's questions answered. So we're thankful for them giving us and being that generous with their time. I'd encourage you all to visit our website, proliteracy.org/webinars, where you can find our upcoming webinar schedule. We have general webinars like this one. We have webinars from New Readers Press and our membership webinars, as well as links to previous webinars that we've done. We have the calendar filled out through the end of December, and then we're going to spend the month of December getting our New Year webinars on the schedule. So you should start to see those fill in about mid-December or so. Upcoming webinars that we have for you. Some of you may have gotten a notification about our new advocacy toolkit for adult education. So this is a great toolkit, and especially valuable with the change in administrations, to give you some tools to use to kind of get the word out about adult literacy in general and your specific adult education program. That one in December 2nd is going to be kind of an overview of the toolkit, and then the ones on the that should be December 9th, I apologize. On the 9th and the 16th, those will be more focused webinars on different aspects of the toolkit. So look for invitations for those. And then we also have one of our joint webinars with EdTech Center from World Ed coming up on December 4th. And then we're going to have our last kind of ideas from the field webinar in December is going to be around conversation clubs on Zoom. And that's all of my kind of housekeeping. Today, I'd like to introduce our presenters, Dianna Baycich and Casandra Issaka, I think is how you pronounce your last name.
Issaka.
Issaka. Thank you, Casandra. And they're going to talk to us about Tutor Ready Reading. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn things over to them.
Thank you, Todd. In a minute, you will see. Here we go. So hello from Casandra and I, and there's just a little bit more information about the two of us. So I'll give you a minute to take a look at that. Not bragging, just letting you know kind of our background. Okay, and then on the next slide, we've got kind of what we're going to be doing today. A little background, some descriptions and a demonstration, show you a video, and talk about how we're using things and how you might use them, and then how you can access them. Okay, so little background of our project. We identified a need from literacy tutoring programs. And we started with some resources for reading, and then we added the writing. And we're going to focus on the reading resources today, Tutor Ready Reading. And the need we saw was that after the initial training, tutors often needed a resource to refer to as questions came up during their tutoring, and they needed a resource that they could access anytime, anywhere. So to develop this resource, we used real questions from real tutors, and we based this resource on research and proven strategies. So these are things that work. And these resources were developed by folks from Literacy Works, literacy consultants Kathy St. John and Amy Prebital. And they are housed on a site called LearnerWeb, and you will see LearnerWeb in a couple of minutes. And the LearnerWeb is a site that it's a support system for adults who want to accomplish specific learning objectives, such as improving their basic skills, increasing digital literacy, or preparing for a job. So that's the purpose of that site. And in addition, it houses Tutor Ready Reading and Tutor Ready Writing. So these resources for tutors. Perhaps one of the best parts about this is it's free. And you can access it, as I said, anytime, anywhere, as long as you can connect to the internet. It was generously funded by a grant from the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Career and Technical and Adult Education, and also with a grant from Library Science and Technology Act through the California State Library. So some big thank yous to folks that funded this project. And if you are already using Tutor Ready Reading, the learning plans or the videos, go ahead and put that in the chat box to let us know that you're familiar with this. Okay, some more information about this resource. Again, it's free. We always like free things. And it started with learning plans as answer to tutor questions. And learning plans are not lesson plans. So they're not step-by-step what you would do, but rather there's information and descriptions of strategies that you can use with your tutors, and they're in nice short chunks of information. And then we decided to supplement these learning plans with videos that show real tutors and real learners working together, working through the strategies. So in addition to describing the strategy and reading a description of that strategy, you can see what it looks like when a tutor and a learner are using that strategy in a tutoring situation. And the videos are available two places. They are embedded in the learning plan. So as you're reading through a learning plan, you'll see links to the videos. And if you do want to go straight to the videos, they're available on the California Library Literacy Services website. And you will, and I see they're putting links in the chat. You also get links to these things at the end. As far as topics and strategies, the questions are divided into the 4 components of reading, and you can see those 4 components and some of the topics that are addressed under each of those components. When I counted, I counted 30 questions that learning plans answer and 75 videos. So lots of videos showing these strategies. The strategies are designed to be used one-on-one in tutoring situations, but lots of them can be adapted for small groups of students who are working on the same skills, or even for whole class. The alphabetics learning plans are more for your beginning readers, but fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension strategies can be used for beginning readers or for more skilled readers, just depending on the level of the text that you're using. All right, and now I'm going to take you on a tour of the Tutor Ready website. Let me get mine up here. It's always an adventure when you're using technology to show things. So once you log in, very simple login, this is what you'll see on your screen. And I know that I'm going to click on something and I'm going to have to log in again. It kind of kicks you out after a certain amount of time, but I'm going to click on this list of reading components and tutoring questions. It's going to say welcome. I'm going to choose that goal, and there's the part where I have to sign in again. So let me do that real quick. All right, and it's going to give me an option to see the list of the tutoring questions. So there they are. There's your components, and there's the questions that we have learning plans to answer. And as I scroll down, you'll see the other two components. So today we're going to take a look at the question of how can I help my learner read with accuracy. So we're going to click on the fluency link. And that takes us to the list of questions. You click on the question we want an answer to, and we get the first part of our learning plan. So it lists some strategies, why you would want to use that strategy, a description of the strategy. Click on next, you go to the next part with some more information and the demonstration videos of tutors and learners using these strategies. Then there's links to other resources. And the third part of our learning plan is a reflection piece. So you can kind of reflect on what you've learned, which is an important part of learning for our students and for us. So at this point, since I've shown you what a learning plan looks like, I'm going to stop sharing. And Casandra is going to show you a video of a strategy, a fluency strategy.
Mom said there are 3 things I should always remember.
Fluency is the ability to read with appropriate speed, accuracy, phrasing, and expression. Good readers read at the same speed at which they speak. They correctly identify and pronounce the words they read. Good readers chunk words into meaningful phrases and use intonation and expression when they read out loud. fluent reading is necessary for comprehension. Guided, repeated, oral reading helps improve fluency. You'll see a learner and a tutor practice this strategy in 5 different ways: reading to the tutor, duet reading, echo reading, cross-generational reading, recorded reading. You'll now watch a learner and a tutor practicing 2 guided, repeated, oral reading strategies at the same time. Reading to the tutor, in which the tutor provides help to identify problem words and engages the learner in discussion. And cross-generational reading, where the learner prepares to read to a child. Reading to the tutor is particularly effective for improving a reader's word identification accuracy. Any text can be used with this strategy, but since one of the learner's goals is to read to her granddaughter, this pair is using a children's book for this lesson. Unless your learner has a similar goal, you'll use materials of interest to adults.
Practicing will help you with your fluency. It'll make her super happy for you to be able to read her a whole story.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be here to just help you. You can read it to me like I'm her.
Okay.
I won't sit on your lap. But the difference will be if you're stuck on a word, I'll just supply it so you can keep going.
Okay.
And you're going to try and read it with expression so that, like, if it were her, you're going to make it real for her. Okay? So, what are we reading?
We're reading Diary of a Worm.
Diary of a Worm. I love it. Love it. Look how he's holding his pencil.
I know.
Is that cute? Can't wait to see what a worm writes about in his diary.
Okay.
Oh, that's great. Look at the O is the worm.
Yep.
That's cute. Okay.
Okay. Mom said there are 3 things I should always remember. 1, the earth gives us everything we need. 2, we are, when we dig trenches, tunnels, we help take care of the earth. Number 3, never bother Daddy when he's eating the newspaper. Okay. Today, I tried to teach Spider how to dig. First all of his legs got stuck. Then he swallowed a bunch of dirt. Tomorrow he's going to teach me how to walk upside down.
Okay, let's take a break right there and kind of recover what we've read. Okay, so the first part of this book was Mom telling him 3 things to remember. What did you get out of that little part?
Well, the first thing was that the earth gives us everything.
And then
he taught then he dug a tunnel.
Because when the worms dig tunnels, they help take care of the earth. So, and do you know why? Do you know how?
No.
So when a worm digs a tunnel, air gets in the dirt. And so they're aerating the earth and making the soil healthy. And the earth takes care of them, they take care of the earth. So they have a nice relationship. Okay, never
bother Daddy when he's eating the
newspaper. Okay, so what is that? Normally you don't bother Daddy when he's reading the newspaper.
That's right.
But what is this? So does that teach you something about what worms eat?
Paper.
I guess they eat paper. I didn't know that. Okay.
No.
All right. And now he's teaching
the spider how to crawl. How to dig.
So he's really good at digging. He's built for it. Now, how do you think the spider did?
Not good. He had too many legs.
He had too many legs, too skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then He swallowed a bunch of dirt, so it didn't go well.
No.
Not built for digging. Yeah, and then the next day, the spider's going to try and teach him something that he knows that the worm doesn't know how to do. To walk upside down. Have you ever seen a worm walk upside down?
No.
I think they have a belly and they always go the same way. But spiders, they're built for walking upside down. Okay, so let's try the passage again, exactly like you did.
Okay.
And I'm your 2-year-old granddaughter.
Okay.
So make it fun for me.
All right.
Okay. Do you want to use the pen and try and smoothly go underneath for yourself this time? Because that will help. So just kind of create a pace for yourself with the pen. Yeah.
Mom said there are 3 things I should always remember. The earth gives us everything we need. When we dig tunnels, we help take care of the earth. Never bother Daddy when he's eating the newspaper. Today I tried to teach Spider how to dig. First, all of these legs got stuck.
First, all of his legs got stuck.
First of all, his legs got stuck. Then he swallowed a bunch of dirt. Tomorrow he's going to teach me how to walk upside down.
Okay, let's take a breather. How do you feel about that time?
A lot better.
Did it go better than the first time?
I could definitely tell.
Your speed increased a lot, just from one to the next.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Did you notice anything about what you were reading that made that easier, or was it just because we talked about the words? Or you know, the first time through, I had to help you with maybe 2 words or 3. This time, this was the only phrase that tripped you up.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just do that one first. All of his legs got stuck. You know what would really help in this sentence? A comma. First, comma, all of his legs got stuck.
That's it.
You want to put a comma in there?
I can do that.
Yeah, because that I think would help with the phrasing. Yeah, that then, comma, he swallowed a bunch of dirt. That will help you immensely. Okay. So let's try it again.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, who knows why they didn't put commas in.
Mom said there are 3 things I should always remember. The earth gives us everything we need. When we dig tunnels, we help take care of the earth. Never bother Daddy when he's eating the newspaper. Today I tried to teach Spider how to dig. First, all of his legs got stuck. Then he swallowed a bunch of dirt. Tomorrow he's going to teach me how to walk upside down.
Excellent.
A lot better.
Yeah. So did you feel like that was smooth and as fast as you could go?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. That was really different. And I got a lot more understanding out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like now when you read it to your granddaughter, she would get understanding out of it because you're able to express yourself better?
Yes. Yes.
You know why kids, as soon as you finish a book, they say, read it again. Well, it's kind of the same thing. They want to practice. They want to hear those words, and they get a lot out of the repetition.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, do you want to start from the beginning and try and go through to this point?
Okay.
Okay, and that'll be like our final, see how you feel about that.
Mom said there are 3 things I should always remember. The earth gives us everything we need. That's a good passage.
It is.
When we dig tunnels, we help take care of the earth. Never bother Daddy when he's eating the newspaper. Today I tried to teach Spider how to dig. First, all of his legs got stuck. Then he swallowed a bunch of dirt. Tomorrow, he's going to teach me how to walk upside down.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
that's a lot better.
Yeah. So this
A lot
repeated,
better.
that's why it's helpful to do it more than one time.
Wow.
So there's a bunch of different ways we can do that. But for practicing to read to your granddaughter, this is a great strategy. And your speed really increased. And
I enjoyed
it's
that.
fun, isn't
Yeah.
it? And now do you think you might want to read to her?
Yeah.
So that's one method, with you just going for it and me just supplying a couple of words when you needed it. The first time only. You didn't need help after that, really. We identified some places where it was rough and we smoothed them right out,
Yeah,
and then
we
you
did.
sped right up. So that's one technique.
It's important to practice each guided, repeated, oral reading strategy by having your learner read the passage out loud at least 3 times. Provide guidance for how to improve fluency by assisting your learner when needed and modeling accurate, well-paced reading with appropriate phrasing and expression. The goal is for your learner to read as fluently as she speaks. You've seen a tutor do quite a bit of talking when explaining a new strategy. During most lessons, you and your learner would be equally talkative.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that video. But you might be saying to yourselves, well, that's all well and good, but you know, right now we're not sitting next to each other. We're not getting anywhere close to each other. So how's this going to help? So if you have some ideas, go ahead and put those in the chat, and I'll share a couple of things that Casandra and I thought about. The fact that if you could both get a copy of the book, library or sending in the mail, things like that, and have a Zoom meeting, or use your smartphones to have video calls, or you can kind of virtually sit side by side using your smartphone camera to point at the book and read the text for your student and follow along, and then they can then you can listen to them read. So it's time to be kind of creative and think outside the box so that we can do these kinds of things with our learners from a distance. And I see some things popping up in the chat, so I'm assuming that you're all sharing some ideas. And yes, great, thank you. Yeah, so there's ReadWorks, there's Google, sharing your screen, having, yes. So for everybody, take a look in the chat and read the great suggestions in there in addition to, you know, what I have said. Okay, there's some folks who are still working in person. Yeah. One thing, you know, you want to be mindful of is copyright laws. I've had my hand slapped. It's not pretty. So, you know, just keep that in mind. But I know that we all want to do everything we can for our learners. So that's a good thing. And Casandra has some more ideas of how to, how she's using these resources in her programming and how they can be adapted for our current times where many of us are not getting close to each other. So Casandra, it's all yours.
Yes, thank you, Di. So yeah, I'm just going to give you a little background about how we've used the videos in our program in Sacramento, California. And please continue to add any of your own ideas or things that you're doing in the chat. And then if you have any specific questions about the resource or in our program, then you could put that in the Q&A. And as you're already doing, which is great, please continue to add any ideas for distance learning adaptations. So quickly, just a little bit about our program to give you an idea of the size, and you can kind of compare how things may or may not be similar for you or what you might be able to do. In Sacramento, we're a pretty good sized system. We have 28 library branches that are mostly urban and suburban, but with a few rural branches. And we do tend to have less tutoring going on in that area, unfortunately. And prior to the pandemic, we had pairs meeting at about 24 of those locations. And so we provide centralized coordination from our downtown branch with, we have 3 full-time staff. And traditionally, before this time, we've had about 200 volunteer tutors who are matched during a year, and about 250 to 350 learners who are matched, with an average of about 150 active tutoring pairs. And we had waiting lists as well. So it was important for us to kind of be able to get tutors on board and everyone on board fairly quickly. And we never had a problem really recruiting tutors or learners, which was nice for us. So how we used, prior to the pandemic and this time, we were mainly using the videos more independently. We were not as familiar with the Tutor Ready platform. So we do plan to use that more going forward, especially with all this distance learning going on. The image here that you see is from an online Google form homework quiz that we would use when we were doing in-person tutor training. We would assign this as homework prior to attending the tutor training. And this would give potential tutors a really good idea of the type of tutoring they'd be doing with adults and the type of topics that they might need to address, you know, instead of just, you know, a few tutors seem to come just thinking they're going to read with a learner. So this was really helpful to potential tutors and kind of gave them something to latch on to also when they come to the in-person training and, you know, attach all the additional information to this preview that they had. And now we were able to switch pretty easily to distance tutoring in the way of tutor training. And we've also been doing assessments remotely. But since we had already had this online component and we require all of our volunteer tutors to come in having an email address that they regularly access, then that gave us a little bit more to work with that way as far as them having some technology ability. Although we have lost a lot of active tutors during this time, of course. We probably dropped by about a third or so, but we're kind of slowly getting people back. And we have even accepted, you know, out-of-state tutors since the location is not a problem right now. So let's see. And so in the in-person tutor training, we also kind of reviewed these resources that were available, and we kind of focused on the YouTube playlists for these set of videos, which are now up to about 74 on the YouTube site. And 4 of those videos are kind of visuals and advice for the first meeting that your tutor and learner might have. Now we have been focusing on using the pro literacy online tutor training for our distance learning, distance tutoring training for tutors. And what we've always done though with these videos as well is to send a reminder link when tutors are first matched with their learner. And in particular, if we saw from a learner's assessment that they really could use support in a specific area like phonemic awareness, then we would provide a link to the specific playlist and or a specific video in order to guide the tutor in getting started. So in the future, either now during distance tutoring or in the future when meeting again, we plan to use the Tutor Ready learning plans much more, or at all, I guess. And some ideas would be to provide tutor in-service workshops, which actually we use the videos a little bit for that previously when doing in-person. But that can be a really great resource to provide virtual in-service workshops, ongoing tutor training during this time. You could maybe approach it from like a flipped classroom concept or a learning circle maybe. And so people could read the learning plans beforehand and preview the video and then be ready to maybe watch the video again and do hands-on practice in the group setting together, whether that's virtual or in person. So I want to make sure to leave enough time for questions. So I think I will stop there for now. Let's see.
Great. Thank you, Casandra. And I wanted to, Dianna, I know you may have some wrap up, but I wanted to address the issue about copyright real quick, because I know, especially with the pandemic and the need to have digital resources to share with students and kind of the lack of availability of digital resources, I posted an article in the chat. Excuse me. I posted an article in the chat that is, I think, a very good article about copyright, fair use, and the pandemic. It's written by a librarian. I'm going to post that article again so it's easy to find. It's down at the bottom of the chat. But I would say, I think, just as a general rule, when you're trying to figure out if you're violating a copyright law or rule or fair use, or if you're abiding by fair use, the easiest way to think about it is if you are copying something to make it easier to use, you are probably okay. If you are copying something so that you don't have to buy something, you're probably not okay. And so, as an example, if you are using a workbook, student workbook, and you want to copy the story that's in that workbook, or the take a picture of it so that you can easily display it on your Zoom screen while everyone's reading it, but you have sent that student workbook to all the students in the class so they have it there in front of them, you're okay with that, because you're copying to make it easier for you to display. You're not trying to prevent yourself from buying books because you've already sent the books to the students. However, if you take a picture of that story, display it, and then attach it to an email or a text and send that text to all your students so you don't have to buy the student book, that's not okay. So just kind of, that's a good rule of thumb. And that's basically what that article, kind of the direction that that article takes as well. Okay, Casandra, I'm sorry, I wanted to address that issue real quick, but if you want to wrap up your with your web links and things like that, go right ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, the previous slide was just showing on the California Library Literacy Services website, which is referred to in short as CLLS. On there, you can see, there they have the videos also available and Tutor Ready link. And then when you scroll down the page, they have sample resources there from different programs. And the first arrow there is a PDF, a complete PDF version of our online Google form that I was mentioning earlier, where we have the videos embedded for a quiz. And below that, the second arrow is an overview document of the videos that we would use as a handout for our tutors to refer to later. And there are many other great resources on there. So that's that visual for you of that site.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah. And then Di, did you want to finish?
Yeah, and then these are the links, and I believe these were posted in the chat as well. The LearnerWeb, where you can access the Tutor Ready Reading and Tutor Ready Writing materials. And I want to point out that if you just go to LearnerWeb.org, you can't really access the Tutor Ready materials. This is the link you need to use. So it's tutorready.learnerweb.org. And then the CLLS website, and then some related resources, things that Casandra talked about. So those are the three important links. And at this point, yeah, we're ready for some questions. If there are questions, we'll attempt to answer them. And I want to say that there's lots of people on this call. So if some other folks have some answers or comments or ideas to share, please put those in the chat. There's lots of brains here, so let's use them all.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's one of the helpful things about these webinars is that people are very, very good about sharing. So we do have a couple of questions, and I'll remind everybody that we'll stop taking questions at the top of the hour. So if you have questions, now's a good time to get them in. Our first one is, are there any videos that feature adult ESL students? So it seemed like everything that they saw was focused on ABE students, native English speakers. So are there any that feature specifically ESL students, or if not, are there instructional techniques or strategies that would be relevant to ESL students?
I know that for the writing videos, there are some specifically featuring ESL students and some tips and strategies. I know Kathy St. John is on this this webinar, and she would probably be able to answer that. She is way more familiar with, each specific reading video than I am. So we'll see if she puts something in the chat. And yes, she just said, yes, there are reading videos with ESL learners. So,
oh, hi.
Yeah, and I just gave Kathy St. John the ability to talk, so she can help folks.
Oh, thank you, Todd. And thank you, Di. So yes, the reading videos were actually, we tried very hard to feature native English speakers, because California Library Literacy Services programs are mandated basically to serve literacy students rather than ESL students. But of course, the reality is that, especially in California, many of the learners in our programs are from other countries. And so, yes, we just happen to focus on a native English speaker in the video that we showed today. But yes, I'm trying to think that I think there are some folks from Mexico. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think, but definitely some ESL learners in the reading videos. There are some strategies that reading strategies that work well for native English speakers that need to be adapted or should not be used for non-native English speakers, and the learning plans actually do address that. So, but for the most part, most of the strategies can be used very successfully with non-native English speakers.
Yeah, I would second that and say that with things like phonemic awareness and those activities, you want to be careful, of course, with English language learners, that it's not just a pronunciation issue that might be difficult for them to really get accurate, or those types of things.
And while we have Kathy still able to speak, I'll ask the three of you. So that video was a individual tutor and student in a one-on-one situation. Do any of the videos feature like a small group or a classroom setting, or are they all kind of that one-on-one setting? And I guess kind of the same question about the Tutor Ready Writing videos while we're kind of talking about those contextual issues.
Yeah, that's a great question, Todd. And so again, our particular audience was one-to-one tutors, because what we found when we looked at the body of research and the resources available in the field was that there were quite a few resources for classroom teachers, for small group teachers, but really not very much at all for tutors, and especially volunteer tutors and one-on-one tutors. So a particular need was in the field, and so that was what we sought to fill. Also, especially with the reading research, a lot of the strategies that are recommended and that we know are proven effective for reading really need to be done one-to-one. So if you're in a classroom setting or in a small group setting, what can be done is you can group students, and you can have students who don't need particular remediation or particular work on a specific skill. They can be working on something else, and you can provide one-to-one instruction with a student who needs extra help. Or if you're a classroom teacher, volunteers are fabulous. I know that in my my classes that I teach, I could not do nearly as good a job if I didn't have volunteers helping me. Cassandra, Di, do you have anything to add to that?
Nope.
No, thank you.
Okay, we've got some more questions. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. Do you guys have any plans to do math tutoring lesson plans or videos similar to the literacy videos that we just saw? I know I would be in favor of that. I love teaching math, so always excited when somebody asks about math resources. But any plans for that?
Not that I know of, but that would be great.
Not that I know of either, but if somebody wants to fund that.
That
There's
is
another
a great
grant project.
Yeah, that's a great need. And I know some absolutely fantastic math teachers and math trainers, especially that are co-links, national trainers, who would do a fantastic job with that. I think none of us are math folks. I'm in fact a math phobe. But that is actually an excellent project for other people, I think, to do. So none of the folks that I know who are really, really terrific in math trainings live in California. And, we've been getting funding for this from the California State Library through the LSTA grants, but that's certainly something to pursue. Maybe that's something we could partner with, Todd. So let's talk about that. I know certainly for links, math was a huge need. When I was traveling around the country, going to conferences, teaching about reading and writing, the math trainings had 3 to 4 times the number of participants.
Yes.
So we were,
Yes.
yeah, it was very clear that math was a huge need.
Well, I think we have our next proposal to start working on, guys. We can start working on that. I think that's a good idea. Let's see. We have some questions about. Let's see. I'm a new adult ESL tutor. What is the best resource for lesson plans?
ESL specifically.
Well, Todd, I think you know, what are the ones that are featured in New Readers Press?
Right.
I'm blanking, so it's
Sure. So I can address this. So I would say kind of it depends on how structured you want that lesson plan to be. So there are a lot of ESL publishers. Certainly New Readers Press has a lot of materials, and we're always going to promote them because they're the publishing division of Pro Literacy. I know a lot of programs use, what is it, Burlington English?
Yes,
Which
Burlington.
I think is, I think people have found that because it's digital, I believe. So I think a lot of the folks that have presented on our digital learning webinars have wound up using that as a resource. Folks use News for You, which is an online newspaper for a lot of ESL instruction because it generates a lot of discussion and practice with oral language skills. If you're looking for just kind of generically, how do I structure a lesson for any kind of reading or language focus that I might want, Pro Literacy has on our education network a set of online ESL tutor training workshop materials, and the 4th module talks about a kind of a generic lesson plan, which looks at kind of an opening exercise. And Robin, you might have to help me out if I mess up the order, but I think it's kind of a warm-up activity, vocabulary, dialogue, pronunciation, grammar, reading, writing, and then a kind of a closing activity. And it gives some basic percentages of how much time you should spend just as a guide during a lesson on each of those types of activities. But the idea being is that a kind of a robust lesson plan, whatever it is that you're reading or talking about or using as kind of the content, you know, these are the areas that you would want to focus on, and they kind of blend one to the next. So you can take a look at that. Those resources are, training materials are free if you or your organization is a Pro Literacy member. And then certainly, you know, the materials that Casandra and Dianna just showed about Tutor Ready, a lot of kind of lesson planning resources in there.
Yeah, and I just a couple of things to add to that. So, and if anybody wants to email Casandra or Di, we can get them. I'm just totally blanking right now on a couple of they're tutor. It's like tutor, but for
I speak English.
For ESL, I'm just blanking. But for example, in the Tutor Ready writing videos or learning plans, we have samples of language experience stories or language experience approach for native English speakers. And then we have an example of one for non-native English speakers. So there are differences between those things. So we have addressed that, especially in the writing learning plans, but yeah, if you contact us, we'll get you those. There's like a tutor manual that, Todd, are you not, you know?
Yeah.
Like
so I'm posting
tutor.
a link to a couple of things from New Readers Press in the chat. So one is just kind of our landing page for ESL and citizenship materials. And then the other is for teacher resources. And on those teacher resources, the two that you'll want to look at for ESL lesson planning is Teaching Adults ESL
That's it.
and I Speak English.
Thank you. Yes.
And those are both kind of two just like generic teacher or tutor manuals. So they're not published instructional material specific. So they're good support materials for whatever published materials you're using. All right, I think that addresses that. Oh, and we also have, if you go on Education Network, we do have some free lesson plans. There's a lesson plan section on Education Network, and they're lesson plans that we've pulled from some of those New Readers Press materials, and you can download those and make as many copies as you want for your class. And they are organized by ESL and literacy and like low level and high level. So you can kind of identify the particular ones that you want. And I think I included a link in the chat for Education Network to create an account, but I'll include that again.
Cool. Thank you, Todd.
Robin, you want to take the next question, and I will find that link again for Education Network.
Sure. We have a request, it was in the chat, a request for your the direct YouTube list, a link to that.
Oh, okay. I can get that.
And if you share it, and we'll get it into the chat.
Yes. Where is that? Oh.
And let me also remind folks that those videos are also on Education Network as well. If you have an Education Network account, certainly want to encourage people to visit the California Library website. But if you already have an Education Network account and want to kind of keep all your resources together, you can find them there as well. And I think this might be the site that you're looking for, where all of the videos are. Okay, we have some additional questions about copyright, so I'm going to see if I can answer those. So one is, if I send a copy by email of a page from a book that I have, but the student doesn't, am I violating copyright laws? Yeah, you probably are. Excuse me, if you are just kind of displaying it so the student can read it and you guys can practice reading it together, maybe not, but if you're actually sending it to the student so that they have a copy and you're doing that instead of buying the book, you're probably violating copyright laws. So I would say don't do that. And then another one, would I be fair and safe for using free materials for learning plans listed here for a small group? Yeah, typically if the materials are free, they may have some specific stipulations about how they can be used. A lot of times if materials are free, you're prevented from making copies and making any money off of those copies. So, you know, kind of be careful about that. But yeah, if the materials are like identified as fair use and free, typically you're okay sharing those with people, because the idea is if they're free and you found them, other people can find them as well. So, but pay attention, they may have specific requirements for, you know, kind of identifying where they came from or how you can use them. Okay.
Yeah,
so
copyright's a tricky thing.
it is a tricky thing.
Yeah.
It is a tricky thing. And I don't want to encourage people, I mean, you know, having a publishing division, I don't want to encourage people to violate copyright laws. But like I said, I think just the general principle of, if you're making a copy so that it's easier to use, you'll generally be okay. People won't, as you said, kind of slap your wrist if you are actually in violation, they'll just kind of say, yeah, but I'd appreciate it if you didn't do that. Yeah, if you're making copies so you don't have to buy a book, then don't do that. And just kind of keep in mind that a lot of these publishers, kind of use that money to invest in developing new materials and doing research. And I mean, we use the proceeds from our materials that we sell to provide like these webinars and things like that. So yeah, just kind of keep that in mind. Is there a copyright violation for PDF literature? So we clearly have a lot of questions about copyright, and I just want to make it clear that I am not a copyright attorney. But again, I would kind of say it really depends on how you came across the PDF. So if it was a PDF in the context of something that you paid for, like it was a PDF associated with Burlington English, which is a subscription that you pay for or something like that, it's probably given to you as part of your subscription, and you maybe shouldn't be sharing it with everybody. But if you happen upon it in a just kind of a general Google search and it's on a organization's website, that's probably more free to use. And Dianna, Cassandra, do you guys have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, usually if it's something that you need to pay for, you don't want to make copies and send it out. Although sometimes things that you can find on websites and that are accessible online still might be copyrighted, even though you can use the materials for free. So for instance, like a survey or something. So you still have to kind of be cautious about what you're finding. Even if it's a PDF, it still might be copyrighted.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
And let me just say, we are at the top of the hour. So those of you who need to leave, thank you very much for attending. And as I said,
Yes,
we
thank
will
you.
Send out the link to the recordings and all of the follow-up materials on Monday. We've got a couple more questions about copyright, so we'll try to answer those, and then we'll let folks go. But thank you very much, and you guys have a great weekend. In terms of copying, making PDFs, or having PDFs for books that are old or out of date, or books that are kind of, I don't know about past the statute of limitations, there are points at which materials become part of, what is it called?
Yeah, I can't remember either. I want to say open access, but I don't think that's it.
That's not the term, but yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a point at which they become kind of part of the just general community, and you're able to kind of use them fairly. But again, I think the big part of it would be just looking at why are you using that PDF? How did you find it? Were you looking for it so that were you specifically looking for a PDF so that you didn't have to buy a book? That's an indication that the book is still for sale and people are using it and so selling it, and that money is going back to the author. Public domain, that's the
Public domain, yeah.
That's the term. Thank you, Marilyn. So again, it just, I think you have to use your own judgment. A question, if you buy a book and then make copies rather than purchasing more materials, that's definitely a violation of copyright laws. As you kind of initiated that. If you buy a book, that means the book is for sale. If you want other people to also use that book, then you should have them buy the book too. So
I'm not sure if I'm spelling it right because but I'm putting in the chat, there's something called the Gutenberg Project that you can access online. It's an internet site that has books that are in the public domain that you can, that are there, that I believe they've uploaded. Google might have something like that too going, where there's things in the public domain that you can access and make copies of and things. But I know Gutenberg Project is one of them.
Great. And I am putting the link to the Gutenberg project in the chat. And that is Gutenberg, inventor of the printing press, not Steve Gutenberg, beloved actor. So, okay, I think that is, I think that's it for the questions. So, again, Dianna, Casandra, thank you very much for being willing to share these great resources. And just to remind everybody, these resources are absolutely free.
Yes.
And available to everyone. So go make good use of them. They're fantastic resources. Thank you everyone for attending, and we'll see you next week.